Welcome to the 2020 Presidential Race Review. I'm your host, Jessica Kwong. Welcome to the 2020 Presidential Race Review. I'm Jessica Kwong, and I have two guests with me here today. New York City Council member Andy King, and also Republican speechwriter Lisa Schiffren. Let's get right to it. We have 7 candidates who are going for the Democratic nomination, and we're going to start with the Democrat, Andy King. So let's be straight. Who is the candidate that you're going for right now?
Well, I'm still assessing them. But one of the things I do want to look for in a candidate, and I tell every voter, when you're looking for a candidate, look for someone who has a record of doing some things, not just the nice conversation at the start of the day and start of the campaign. So many people get fooled by sound bites, but you really got to look into the heart of the individual who's running for office, their commitment to help people, and a track record that said they actually accomplished something. Right now, you want to find a candidate who has some executive skills. Because if you don't have any executive skills, how do you say you're an executive?
Bloomberg or Tom Steyer? They're billionaires who had a long track record.
Well, I say they do qualify because they have some executive skills. When you have a lot of elected officials, and one of the things I've always tell everybody, you can't be in a house for 15 or 20 years and then all of a sudden on the 21st year you want to complain about the house. If you're going to be in a house and if you're going to come out and say, I want to lead the house, then you should have done some things during your tenure in the house to improve the house that shows that you're qualified to lead the house.
Are there any senators right now that you're pleased with? And can you give us any hints on maybe their top 3 candidates that you're into right now?
I would say right now, Mayor Bloomberg, as much as some people might be disingenuous about how they believe and how he feels about him, how he served in New York as a mayor, under his tutelage, the city of New York did do well. It improved in some areas, and some things we might be annoyed with, and people will talk about those things, but that can't be his ever existence of being the mayor of the city of New York.
So he sounds like your top candidate right now.
Well, you have Mayor Bloomberg, and then you have to talk about the Vice President Biden, who actually served in the White House, has an ideal of what Washington looks like, how to get some things done, and has done some things. So you can't discard him at all. And then, after that, how do you say his name? Buttigieg?
Pete Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
Mayor from South Bend.
I like his poise, as he always comes. A lot of times during the conversation, he tries to bring back reasons, try to bring the conversation back to focus.
He's very cool and collected.
Yeah, because sometimes they go off the map with some of the conversations if you have it. But those will probably be 3 that I'm looking at, at this point in time. But I ask everyone to still stay tuned because more needs to be heard.
Okay, great. So Lisa, you're a Republican or conservative, whichever way you want to say it, and you're also a Trump supporter from what I understand. Which candidate do you think could beat Trump if there's any that could pose a threat to him?
Honestly, I think Bloomberg is the most serious threat.
Okay.
Although, I'm a native New Yorker, I did not think he was a particularly good mayor. I thought Rudy Giuliani did a fabulous job turning the city around, and Bloomberg slid. He maintained.
Well, Andy, it seems like your choices, Buttigieg, Biden, and remind me again.
Bloomberg,
right? They're all moderates, right? So is that where you want the candidate and the Democratic nomination go to instead of a progressive?
I believe that there has to be a balance, because if you have someone that's so way on one end, you can't see the other side of the table.
Well, the reality is that Bernie Sanders is actually leading after the first 3 primaries, and the first 3 caucuses. So what do you think about that, Lisa? I mean, you mentioned that Bloomberg you think is the biggest threat, so,
I think he's a threat because at the end of the day, he's smart and he's sane and he has a real record.
Is it about progressive or moderate at all?
No, of course. I think Bernie is not a Democrat. He's a socialist. I remain puzzled as to why the Democratic Party allowed him to run on their platform. I think that was a mistake. I think the same thing is true about Bloomberg, except you see why they wanted him. I think Elizabeth Warren believes more or less exactly the same thing as Bernie. That little dig you had about people who complain about the House after 21 years doing nothing, that's Bernie. He was in the Senate for 20 years, did nothing, passed 3 bills, 2 of which were naming post office. And now he wants to remake the economy. So, okay.
So you're hoping that gets whittled down pretty
Oh,
soon?
of course, yes,
We're
because
10 months from the election. About.
all of these people have an image and there's a reality. And if you want to know the reality, you need to hear them and you need to read about them at length.
Predictions. What are some predictions on who can get knocked off? Let's say we have 7 candidates right now. Which 3 do you think are going to remain if it gets down to that point? Any guesses?
Well, I think Buttigieg will be out after South Carolina because, as black leaders have pointed out very delicately, his sexual orientation will be off-putting to many voters. So, you know, it was actually shocking and interesting that that wasn't the case in Iowa. I think he's young. I think he has plenty of time. I think
He's got a lot of potential. Can't deny that.
but he needs a real job. Amy Klobuchar is right when she says, "Why don't you
Mayor's not
try?
good enough,
no,
right?
but why don't you
Mayor's
win?
some- yes, exactly,
something,
yeah,
win a statewide office?" Tom Steyer just seems like
Yeah.
a big zero to me.
Yeah, I have to agree
But
with you on that
He's
too.
got a lot of money, and that's why he's still in
Yeah,
it.
but you know what? You need money and a little bit of.
He keeps pushing his climate agenda and what he's done for the climate. Do you think that is he's just talking about it, or we're not taking that into consideration that he's done a lot for the climate?
I would just like to say that ever since our Bronx Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, came up with the really
Green New
shocking Green New Deal based on kind of nothing, which is a pure economic program and has nothing to do with the environment, they all just latched onto it. They all just sort of swallowed it hook, line, and sinker, and they all kind of regurgitated at moments. Haven't seen that from Bloomberg. But Steyer just bought that wholesale, and everything he has to say comes out of that document, which is shameful. Let's do some research. Let's figure out what actually has to be done and what doesn't have to be done.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with more 2020 presidential race. Welcome back to the 2020 presidential race review. I'm here with my guests, New York City Council member Andy King and Republican speechwriter Lisa Schiffren. We're going to continue by talking about something that Pete Buttigieg said during the debate last night. He said that if the Democratic nomination goes to Bernie Sanders, then the party is going to lose and Trump is going to get elected again. What do you think about that, Andy?
I think that is an accurate statement. And I think people have failed to realize is that Bernie Sanders represents a small piece of America and an American agenda.
His argument is that he's already won three states, and there's more people that believe in progressive values than you think. You don't buy that?
I don't buy that because you walk down the streets in the Bronx or you go in the streets of Manhattan.
And,
there are a
and
lot
we're
of people
liberal here in New York.
Yeah,
so.
but you'll have a lot of people that are going to be new voters who have no clue who are some of those people on that stage.
So you said that Bloomberg is the biggest threat to Trump. So if they were actually facing each other, do you think that Bloomberg is going to succeed? If he's not good on the debate stage with other Democratic candidates, do you think he has a chance if they're going to be the two candidates?
I do not think he will succeed against Donald Trump. No, he did it in a gentlemanly way because it was a different time.
Well, this is we're asking somebody to be a little step more stately with our president.
As a Republican, I'm tired of having Republicans who don't fight back.
I have a fun question for you, Andy. So right now, given we have 7 Democratic candidates, would you choose a combo of president and vice president with whoever's on the field or not on the field right now? Who do you think would stand a chance against Trump? You can say, just choose a pair if you can.
I would have to say the senator from Minnesota,
Okay.
and
Amy?
as well as Bloomberg. I think she can give him
And
what
who's
he
going to
doesn't
be the
have.
vice president? Who's going to be the president?
Oh, that's easy.
Well, it goes back to
Bloomberg.
again, who
Has
would be
$60 billion?
who would be able to deliver a message. I think she's a great asset to them.
Okay, so
and I think
Bloomberg. Okay,
yeah, I think that probably would have to go.
Well, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to the 2020 presidential race. We'll be back for some more next time.